Whitewashed walls with blue-capped domes, quaint winding streets and cliffside island views. Must be no other place than Santorini, Greece. Come join me on my cruise excursion to arguably Greece's most Instagrammable island. Welcome to The Traveling Doctor, where I take you on my journeys around the U.S. and the world. I'm Dr. Holly Clemens, board-certified family physician. I've been traveling around the U.S. providing medical care to communities with a need for a family physician. I see all the sites while on my work assignments and on my own adventures around the world. If you want to pack your virtual bags and join me, then click the subscribe button to see my upcoming videos. Click the like button if you like what you see and want to support the channel. Well, let's jump into it with my most recent travels to the Greek Isles on board Celebrity Infinity for a 9-night Greece, Malta, and Spain cruise. We woke up in Santorini with views of volcanic cliffs capped by whitewashed and blue-trimmed houses. The town of Fira sits on the cliffs created by a volcanic eruption nearly 3,600 years ago. This created a large flooded basin on the island called a caldera. It is thought that this eruption is the origins of the fabled lost city of Atlantis. In the following millennia, the community gathered on the cliffs and built cave-like homes to protect themselves against invading pirates. I know we showed up in a boat, but we aren't pirates, so how do we get to the top today? Well, by walking, by cable car, or by donkey. You heard that right, by donkey. There is the free option of the traditional 600-step winding staircase. If you're not that able, you might want to consider a donkey ride at the cost of €10 per person. But no, you will be traveling past manure. We opted for the cable car. The cable car may have a very long, winding line through the port, but it is the least taxing option at €6 one way. We waited about 30 minutes in line in September when tourist season was coming to an end. Once you're at the top, you are immediately thrust into a series of iconic, whitewashed, narrow streets full of souvenir shops, restaurants, cliffside hotels. If you have the chance, definitely eat at a restaurant with a view of the cliffs and the caldera. We had a wonderful meal of squid, eggplant, hummus, pasta, and fish. It was not only one of the most beautiful lunches I've ever had, but also a great way to get those Instagram views. Be sure to bring your camera. Just outside of this souvenir area is where you will find more open space, cabs, and tour guide offices. We kind of aimlessly wandered around in the wrong direction, uphill, before we decided to turn around and explore the island with a guide. We stopped at a company called Blue Wave Travel and were not disappointed. Our group of 4 paid 2 to 3 times less for a 3-hour tour around the island compared to what Celebrity offered. When you arrive at the island of Santorini by cruise ship, you're actually arriving at the port town of Fira. The most famous views that you see all over Instagram are in Aya. You definitely need a ride to get there from Fira. We spent time in Aya taking photos and looking in shops. Aya is a fun, picturesque place to stay. This town also sits on the cliffside with views of the caldera to be had from hotels, restaurants, and shops. Those cool flying dress photos people are taking are also taken on the rooftops of this town. We then circled the island to the mostly sloping landscapes and caught sight of the black sand beach. Then we were off to catch the views from a church at one of the highest points on the island. Unfortunately, we could not go in because it was Sunday and they didn't allow tourists in. But it was another opportunity for a coveted bird's eye view of the Aegean Sea. We loved our tour guide. He provided a lot of island history, including discussion of the art of the ancient people of the island, the Minoans. Another interesting fact was about the origin of the white and blue buildings that dotted the island. The dark stone the houses were constructed from can easily become overheated in the sun, but applying white paint reflects the light and cools down the houses. The blue paint was popular because it was cheap. All you had to do was mix your leftover white paint with a common blue colored household cleaner called Lulaki. I do have one other recommendation for when you're out on the island, that if you have to use a restroom, try to use one inside of a restaurant that you might be eating at that day. And the main reason for this is that you may not get exactly what you think you're going to get when you go into a restroom. So like many other places in Europe, it's not that unusual to have to pay a little bit of money, a small amount of change to be able to get into a restroom. That's not that common in America. I can't think of a single time I've had to pay to go into a restroom in America, but in Europe, not uncommon. And what we noticed is that at one point we did use a restroom inside of a restaurant, and that restroom was great, no problems. And then a couple other times we had to use a restroom and we had a lot of difficulty being able to use it. So the first one was in the main area where all the taxis are, just outside of the town of Fira, like just off the cliff. And there is a restroom there, and you have to pay €1 to go in and use that restroom. The problem is that you weren't warned ahead of time that that's a squat toilet, and I don't know about you, but I don't want to use a squat toilet. And if you don't know what a squat toilet is, I recommend you Google it. We did have to go one more time in Ea. There was another restroom in one of these neat little alleys. They also required €1 to be able to use that restroom, but that was a regular toilet, more traditional toilet. It wasn't a squat toilet, and it was clean, and those people were clearly trying to maintain it. So, you know, it's a little hit or miss. Try to be a little thoughtful in using the restroom. Even when we're on the tour, at another point we needed another restroom, and the tour guide was like, oh, this place here, you know, this restaurant here, they should be able to let you in. And they did not let one of my party in the restroom. They denied entrance. And the tour guide like went off on the guy because he was, you know, complaining that they shouldn't be charging anybody to be going to the restroom, and it's not fair to deny anybody access to such. I think ultimately we ended up stopping at a historic site that we weren't going to go into, but it did have a restroom, and she was able to go in there and use that restroom. Okay, so just some helpful advice. There are many more ways to explore the island, and you can make a plan that works best for you. If you're a fan of wine, why not a wine tasting tour? You can discover for yourself which vineyard made the best use of that volcanic soil. A cooking class may pair well with your wine tour, and maybe you'll get to finish off with some ouzo. You can explore more of the ancient Minoan civilization at the ruins of Akrotiri. Visit Pyrgos Castle at the summit of the island and enjoy the beaches or take a catamaran around the island. What does your perfect day in Santorini look like to you? Let me know in the comments below. Whichever way you choose to see this picture-perfect piece of Greece, you won't be disappointed. Thank you for joining me on my port day in Santorini. If you like this video and want to see more of my journeys, including the other stops on my Greek island cruise, then be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Until next time, enjoy the journey.